This chapter is 1.9, Spencer's Evolutionism. Spencer was a social Darwinist, Charles Darwin, okay, that is social Darwinist, and was of the opinion that society would progress by itself and that this evolution should not be interfered with. Spencer went to the extent of comparing social institutions with plants and animals. Thus, he felt that social institutions would progressively adapt to their environment by themselves without any definite impetus. Spencer took Darwin's Darwin's premise of survival of the fittest, where those people who could adapt to the social and natural environment would live while those who could not so adapt met with their end. Spencer also saw society as an organism. Spencer also saw society as an organism in which different parts of organs were interconnected and each had a role or functions to perform in the overall working of the organism. Thus, unlike Comte, whose evolutionism was in terms of ideas, Spencer had the real material world which he wanted to explain, analyze, and interpret. The evolutionary focus of Spencer is at least twofold. In the first instance, Spencer speaks of the size factor in the social evolution. Thus, as the size of the society increases, so do the various infrastructural and institutional need and requirements. Differentiation and specialization begin to manifest in every sphere, and the fact is that both the size and complexity of a town is very different from a metropolitan. According to Spencer, the size of a society increases by various groups amalgamating and bonding to form larger societies. Thus, Spencer viewed increase in size from that of a simple community to that which is complex or compound. Another evolutionary schema that Spencer offered was that of militant to industrial societies. Militant societies are early forms of organizations mean mainly for defense of a society or aggression towards another society. Such violent attitudes were in themselves responsible for increase in the size of a society with which so important for social revolution. Yet when industrial societies are established and welfare and warfare becomes dysfunctional and obstructs evolutions, industrial societies are not worthy for their human interaction and high specialization. The state is simply a monitoring agency and its basic role is to keep law and order. This is because industrial society represents in Spencer a quantum leap from militant societies, and such societies move towards their own perfection, provided a society is strongly bonded and harmonious in it will survive. But if there is weak bonding and internal social fissures, it would, according to Spencer, die out. Next we will come to the conclusion in chapter 1.10, conclusion. The early ideas of sociologists were very important indications of how the context create an impact of the mind of the sociologist. The sociologists we have discussed were all affected by their social and psychological environment. However, as we have seen that each one of them intend to interpret the social world in their own individualistic ways. However, it would be clear to you by now that the context of theory is essentially society and culture at a particular time and place. It can then be said that social theory is in itself a reflection of the social environment, and at the time in which it was developed also put its stamp on the theory. Therefore, each era, each age respond with their newer and more different theoretical interpretations which are the most apt for that time. There is then an inner and an outer context from which social theories derives. As noted in our introduction to this unit, the inner context has to do with the individual himself, and his personal way of analyzing developments in the outer or encapsulating society. This is not to say that This is not to say that is any seriality from the outer to the inner context. Rather, they exist in an interrelationship between the individual mind and the societal developments and societal consciousness. Only when this interrelationship is clearly explained and analyzed by a thinker does social process, inner and outer, create a theory of society as a whole. It might then be said that the early social theories and theories which they developed was a clear-headed response to the social upheavals and developments, example the industrial revolution, the French revolution, and so on. Finally, there is a feed forward and feed effect in each situation which can partly help explain the rising of social analysis and their implications. Chapter 1.11 further readings have given Sedman Stephen 1983 Liberalization and the Origins of European Social Theory, Berkeley University of California Press, Bryant Christopher G.A. 1985 Positivism in Social Theory and Research, New York, St. Martin's, Lowell David W. 1992 Socialism, Utopianism and the Utopian Socialists, History of European Ideas. Some reference also given that George Ritzer 1996 Sociological Theory, New York, McGraw-Hill, Lancer Gertrude 1975 Auguste Comte and Positivism, The Essential Writing, Mass Myth, Karl Marx 1862 Theories of Surplus Value, Part 1, Moscow Progress Publishers, Max Weber 1904 The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, New York, Scribner's, Buttel, Frederick H. Symposium, Evolution and Social Change, Sociological Forum. So this is the end of the unit.